I'm glad to hear that. Well, with that, I want to introduce our first presenter, Peter Law, who will be talking to you about how to structure a speech and how to give your speech a purpose. Then he'll take a short break for a breather and come back to talk to us about storytelling and why stories are important to everything we do. Peter Law has been a Toastmaster now for over 15 years. He's achieved the highest award given by Toastmasters, the Distinguished Toastmaster, numerous times. But at his heart, Peter is a competitive speaker. He loves taking part in contests and winning them. And in fact, he has won the state championship in the international speaking contest twice. In 2012, he represented WA in the World Championship of Public Speaking held at Orlando, Florida. And then in 2014, he represented WA again at the World Championship of Public Speaking in Kuala Lumpur, where he came third in his semi-final. A great achievement for a Sandgrover. Peter Law has also won many contests in evaluation, giving feedback, in humorous speaking, yes, he is a funny man, and in impromptu speaking. And I met Peter and his wife Marianne when I told them that I want to be a comedian. And Peter said to me, Tom, oh, you're not funny. Stop pursuing that dream. If you want to learn how to be a great presenter, come to Toastmasters. And it's been a great journey for me. I've learned a lot from Peter, and I'm confident that you will too as well. So please join me in welcoming to the stage Distinguished Toastmaster Peter Law. You're standing on a precipice that's just out of reach. You've got to jump out, you've got to grab the bar, but you just can't bring yourself to do it. It's fear. Your legs are shaking, you've got butterflies in your stomach, your hands begin to sweat, and you tremble. You just can't step over that line. That's what it's like when you are asked to do a speech. You have no idea. It's terrifying. So let's talk a little bit about fear. How to overcome fear. So fear is this imaginary line that you just can't bring yourself to step over. But courage is the decision to step over that line. If you want to take that further, leadership is the ability to take someone with you. So today I'm going to give you the basics of the speech, how to structure, how to work it out, the very basics. So you know you have to reach out. You may have a chance of not failing. So what are the basics of a speech? Well, the first thing you need to do, you need to have a topic. You need to come up with something you want to talk about. Make sure it's something you're passionate about. Generally, we say, talk about yourself. Because you know what you know? You know more about yourself than anything else. So the first speech we ever tell people to do, introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about yourself. So you don't forget all that stuff because you know all that stuff. Then you must have a purpose. What is the purpose of the speech? Is it to inform? Is it to motivate? Is it to entertain? You should work your purpose out even before you write a speech. And then that's the general purpose. And there's the specific purpose. And that's where you ask the question. After my speech, my audience will. After my speech, my audience will what? Know more about me, know more about my subject, will go and save the earth from climate change. So it is the what, the topic, the why, the purpose, and who, the audience, which is you people sitting there. So if I'm talking to a bunch of guys in bright orange shirts, completely different language, and I reckon you can drop a few clangers in amongst there later on. If I'm talking to a bunch of doctors, then I have to tailor it differently. And if I talk to an international group, I have to make sure that everybody in that audience hopefully understands what I've got to say. So it is for what you're going to talk about. Work out the purpose. Is it to inform? Is it to motivate? Is it to entertain? And then work out the specific thing you want to do. At the end of my speech, the audience will. That's the great question to ask yourself. Let's talk about structure. So it's great to know all that sort of stuff, but if you don't structure a speech, I've seen people start halfway through, then they go back and it's just a mess. They just lose it. But if you know how to structure a speech, when someone asks you something, you can get up and you can basically go ahead, do it. There's three things. And the way we say it here, you go, tell them. How's it go in, Tom? That's right. Tell them what you're going to tell them. Tell them, and tell them what you told them. And that's the basics, but that sounds simple. So basically, those three things work into introduction, middle, and conclusion. The structure is that simple, and so many people get that wrong. So let's talk about those three aspects of a speech. The first one is the introduction. What does the introduction do? The introduction is there to get your attention, set up the topic, and create rapport with the audience. So how do I get your attention? My job is to focus you in on what I have to say. I don't want you looking at your phones or looking out the window. If I don't nail that in the first few sentences, I am lost. I'm going nowhere. So you saw what I had to say at the very start there. And as you go through tonight, you'll see these sorts of things if you keep it in your head. The other one is set up your topic. So I'm setting up your topic to tell you about, I'm actually talking about structure of speech in amongst that. The third one is to create rapport. So how do you create rapport? Well, it's about the way you move on a stage, how you stand out here, how I make eye contact. Hopefully I'm looking confident, enthusiastic, and maybe a smile. So I'm creating the rapport. So even though it's one way, it's a bit of a two-way because I've asked some questions as well, some rhetorical questions. So the introduction is very important to set the whole thing up. If you don't get that right, the rest of it doesn't matter what you say after, it probably won't work. Then we have the middle part. That is your messaging or your story or whatever you want to tell. The key elements that you're trying to get across to your audience. And what we say is don't have 20 of them. Don't have 10 of them. 3 to 5. We normally say you'll get 3 points because the average attention span of a human being isn't that fantastic. You know why Toastmasters do 5 to 7 minute speeches? Because they worked out years ago 7 minutes is about all right. 7 minutes. It's not too bad. So we use that 5 to 7 minute speeches. You can actually give longer speeches. I'm doing it now because Tom told me I had to. So that's where your key message comes. And then comes your conclusion. That does 3 things. First of all, it telescopes to everybody I'm about to finish. And people need to understand that. Telescope it. Don't just stop dead. You summarise your points. You know that quick summary just to remind everybody of what you had to say. And the most important thing, this is the thing that you must think. Remember I told you to start? At the end of my speech, the audience will. What is your take-home message? The most important thing, the one thing, because they will not remember everything in that speech. What is that one thing you want that audience to take home and remember? Now, I've given speeches and thought about it, done this. I've had people come to me 10 years after that, and they say, I remember that speech you gave when you told us to do that. Now, 10 years is not too bad. Even I can remember. But it's all back to this memories. Your messaging is important. What do you want your audience to do? You don't just want to lie. So let's go back over those points. Oh, hello, his telescope just come towards the end. Have a topic. It takes a while to think up a topic. But it ain't that hard. Because you've lived a long life. Lived a lot longer by those things looking around the room. And it may be sport, it may be something you are passionate about. Start with yourself. Then there is the purpose. Why are you doing this speech? You're not just talking to the audience. And then there is the who. So just know your audience and who you speak to. Often speak to people who are interested in learning about how to give speeches or stand up in public. And then there is structure. That is the introduction, the middle, and the conclusion. Introduction, great rapport, get everybody to focus, and set up the topic. Then, middle, giving your message. And at the end, your conclusion, let everybody know you're about to finish. You don't have to say, hey, I'm stopping now. You have to do it in a subtle way. And summarise, and what is the one thing you want people to take away? That is the key. What is the one thing you want people to remember? Because they won't remember it. So here we are. We are on the precipice. Reach out. It's scary. My legs are shaking. I've got butterflies. I'm sweating. My hands become greasy. But I know the basics now. And I jump. And I take that leap. I step over the line. Fear. And I grab hold of that rail. And it swings. And as it comes back, my hands slip. And I fall. Luckily, I have a safety. That safety net is called Toastmasters. It's Toastmasters. It's a fantastic, positive organisation. They will not criticise you. You will get, when you fall, as we all have done, a round of applause for taking the courage to stand up in front of people and talk. So I cannot recommend to you any higher that Toastmasters is one of the most positive organisations in the world you will come across. They will never criticise you. They'll give you positive feedback. And even if you come out here and faint on stage and fall flat in your face, they will give you a round of applause for landing straight. So that ends my talk on structure. And that's about it, Tom.
I was going to give you something to take home, didn't I? Did you learn something from Peter? I learned so much from Peter. I learned that if you fall, fall forward. And you will fall. And I have fallen many times, and sometimes even been tripped up. Most often by myself.